as a PT, if you're trying to do this by yourself, good luck. Not going to happen. This professional career is a long game. You signed up for this. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome any new listeners, anybody who has been with me in the past. Welcome back. I always love these podcasts. For those of you this is your first podcast with me, you're in for a ride. I love this stuff. This is really just my stories and everything that I have learned and that I focus on, that I see with PTs around San Diego, around the country, around the world, and just sharing the stories. And before I go on to the podcast, I want to just give you guys some life updates. As you know, I think on the last podcast I mentioned that I am a new proud father of my third child, Jacob James. He is doing amazing, and as of yesterday, he is 1 month old. Time truly does fly. It's passing so fast, and my son's about to turn 5, my daughter turned 3, and we have Jacob. A lot of lessons learned that I'll continue to share on this podcast. But today, I want to talk about passion and yeah, why did this podcast come up? Number one, I had a conversation with a physical therapist recently. As you guys know, I mentor, I do one-on-ones, I do groups. I just help. My passion is really helping you understand what you're doing for people, how to advance in your profession, how to live life and enjoy it as you've always thought it was going to happen. And sometimes media and people around you change that view, and I'm here to keep you on that right path. And so the question came up. Somebody asked me, "Hey, Chris, I'm a couple years into doing this, and I'm feeling burnt out, and I think I'm losing my passion as a physical therapist." Now, before I go on to that, I want to share a story about my son, Zach. Recently, during this past kind of three to 4 months, we put him into Taekwondo. He's a very physical kid. If you've ever seen him on my social media, he just loves like wrestling and tackling, and he just wants to fight. He's just a boy, and so he got into Taekwondo. He wanted to spend some time learning some, just self-defense. And I said, that's fine. We're going to do this for a certain amount of time. And about a month and a half in, he starts saying, "Hey, Dad, I don't know if I want to do Taekwondo anymore." And I told him, we've committed to this, and it's pretty pricey nowadays, especially San Diego. And when I saw the withdrawal on the first of the month come out of my account, we're definitely going all the way through the end of the month. And right about then is when he says, "Hey, you know what, Dad, let's discontinue." My wife and I have a discussion. She wants him to, like, if he doesn't want to do it, don't let him do it. I'm old school. I'm the opposite end. I'm like, no, if he does this, you can do this for the rest of his life. Not to that extreme, but I did tell him that he has to continue this until the end of the month. And every single session was hard for him to just like every time, "Hey, I don't want to go. I don't want to go." And to me, I wanted to make sure that he went all the way through, and he committed to it. So I'm old school in that way. I really wanted him to complete what we agreed upon, which was a minimum of 3 months. So he did it. He probably hated it to the very end, but I'm proud of him for doing that. And every single session was really tough towards the end, but I'm proud of him. He did it, and it goes along with what today is. And what if you're losing your passion as a physical therapist? So in the discussion with the physical therapist, I said, why? How long have you been practicing? He said, I'm in this for about 3 to 5 years already, and I've done ortho, like, high volume type clinics, and he's averaging, 20 something people a day. He's doing 2 to 3 evals, couple Medicares. He's got, notes and 2 to 3 hours of stuff outside of it. And I said, is it really passion as a physical therapist or passion at where you work? And that stumped him. And I was like, tell me why you got into this business. Why did you become a physical therapist? Every single one of you got into this for a reason. He said, because I had an injury and I went to physical therapy, and it really just changed my life, my view of helping people. And I said, that's a very familiar story. I think a lot of you are probably shaking your heads, whether you're driving or working out or whatever it is you're doing. And he was impacted, and it was inspiring to him to be able to help others. And I said, what happened to that? And he says, it's really hard to view that when you're just in the grind every day, just doing paperwork, and you feel like you're just doing it to do it. And I said, I understand that. For those of you who don't know, the reason why I got into physical therapy is because of my grandma. I was born and raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother passed in 2008. 2008, I think the day after my physical therapy graduation. And my grandma, she raised me, and I wanted to always take care of her because of how hard she worked to make my life happen. And one day she needed a hip replacement, and we didn't have insurance. We didn't have a lot of money. Actually, we didn't have any money, and we didn't. They didn't give us access to PT. They didn't offer it. Now in hindsight, I kind of know what happened behind the scenes. But we didn't have PT, and at the time we didn't have internet, and it wasn't as big as it was. So I looked up the Yellow Pages. Yes, this like phone book that was yellow, and it was delivered to your door. And I looked up physical therapy, and I called up a local place. I took a bus to get a home exercise program for my grandma. And I asked them, hey, listen, we don't have a lot of money. I'd love to help my grandma. Can you help me out? Yeah, no problem. We'll print it off for you. And it was like basic stuff, straight leg raises or whatever the exercises at the time were. And for us, for me, giving back to my grandma was just an incredible experience, like just amazing because like she helped me like walk and get dressed and taught me all these like morals and life lessons. And here I am I was 14 years old, 14, and I was trying to give my grandma her quality of life back. And to me, that was the coolest feeling on the planet. I didn't even know that was a job, and I think most of you didn't even know that either. You're like, what is physical therapy? And you go through it, you're like, this is awesome. I want to do this for the rest of my life. And so to me, it was giving full circle, giving back to my grandma. So that's my passion as a physical therapist. And in hindsight, now that I see it, it's the passion is not necessarily like helping my grandma go full circle. It was helping people achieve more, improve their quality of life. And that's why I opened this business, the mentorship side, because to me, it's not necessarily just improving quality of life like physically, but also like the psychological side of like what you're doing. And I think as a physical therapist going through wherever you are right now, I have people all over the world, all over the country listening to this, and I appreciate you guys. And I see the whole gamut. We've got aspiring physical therapists who are still in undergrad. We've got PT students. We've got new grads. We've got established people 3 to 5 years out. We've got veterans 8 to 15 years out. And every single one of you has a different reason for like why you got into this, and I respect that. So now the podcast topic is, what if I'm losing my passion as a physical therapist? What does that mean? Why? There's a lot of reasons why that's happening. It could be the job, it could be the people around you, it could be your personal life, and I want to share some things that will help you through this. I'm not one, if you ask my team, I'm not one to just give you answers. I'm one to create a framework to help you understand and you figure that out, because that is so much more powerful. You don't need me to tell you every single answer. You just need like help with direction and guidelines. I call them bumpers. You're like pushing, like, it's like go-karts. You're just pushing them in the right direction. So uh, no matter where you are, this applies. I mean, you can replace this with like an accountant. What if I'm losing my passion as an accountant? What if I'm losing my passion as I don't know, a teacher? It doesn't matter. So the principles are the same. So here's what I have for you. All right. First and foremost, I have to tell you, it's normal. All right. You are normal for having this feeling. And let's get that clear, because this is something we will all go through. It definitely happened to me probably, wow, right before I started sports performance. I traveled with pro athletes, and it was a lot. I mean, I was on planes, racking up airline miles, carrying a travel table, just seeing people all day, every day, sometimes 18 hours a day, going to the Paralympic Games, World Championships, Paris. I mean, you name it. And you just work all day, and you're just exhausted, and you can't sleep because like some people waking up early in the morning to get treatment, and there's always things going on. So for me, it was not about the passion for what I did, but the passion for where I was at in the role I was in. And there's a big difference. And that's what I want to work through with you guys. So what if you're losing your passion? Number one, it's normal. It'll come back. All right. So one of the biggest things I can tell you is control your environments. And what I mean by that is we're all on social media, right? Like to a certain extent. If you look at your phone and you look at your metrics, your analytics, you'll see how much you're on, YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, and you'll be surprised with your total time that you're on there because you're like, oh, I was on there for like 20 minutes, and it's like 2 hours. You're like, wait, what happened? And what I mean by that is just control your environment. You always want to control what the input going into that brain is, and if it's negative, you're only going to think negative. I know that seems really, really basic, but here's what I have. Last year, I went through a personal transformation, and I reduced my screen time significantly. I even got my Instagram down to like 5 minutes a day, my YouTube down. Like total social media was like 30 minutes total for the day. And what happened there is I had to fill that time with other things. So a lot more books, having personal conversations, phone calls with people that I wanted to hear from, people that I wanted in my life, the people who inspired me. And so I highly recommend that to you right now as a professional because depending where you're at, so if you're in PT school, you might hate like PT school right now because you're like, I really wanted to be a PT, and you're like, now you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really crazy. I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. Or you're a new grad, you're like, oh, I love this stuff. However, I work in a clinic that's not motivating me. I'm doing too many things. I don't like working this much. Or you're established and you're like, I'm out of this profession. I don't want it anymore. Every single one of you is a different time point. It's normal, and you will go through that ebb and flow. Notice that I talked about a aspiring PT student, new grad, established, veteran, and you're just going to have this wave. And hopefully, that whole time, you actually have a positive slope in terms of clinical skill set, mentorship opportunities, professional development, growth. You should have that positive slope. But within that positive slope, there's going to be some highs and some lows. What you need to do is keep the highs not as high and your lows not as lows. So you have this positive slope that's more linear than a wave of highs and lows. And in hindsight, there's a lot that I could have done, and that's what I want to share. So control your environment. Minimize the time that you're on social media with regard to listening to other professionals talk about how great it is to aspire to do this or aspire to do that. Set your goals, and you need to be grounded. The minute that you get on media, you're going to be told to do this, do that, to be this person that they have become. And the challenge is like, is that really what you want to do? I tell people that, especially aspiring clinicians or new grads that are like trying to change the world, like, hold on, you're trying to chase this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that really doesn't exist. What you're trying to do, you don't try and be like the ultimate best clinician in the world when you see people on media showing what that is. That definition is up to you. It's why you got into PT, not why this superstar is now, only treating NBA players. That's the route they took, and they were very fortunate to get in that position. And that's a goal of yours, that's fine. But what you need to do is make sure that you stay grounded in your environment, control the things that you're listening to. So that way, what happens is the internet changed the game. It allowed people you have all these influencers all over the world. And what happens is sometimes they skew your vision of what it can be like, both positive and negative. I've also seen people, you get on like Reddit, you get on social media, and you have massage therapists talking about, PTs talking about chiros talking about PTs, physicians talking about PTs talking about ortho. Like, who cares? Doesn't change my world. I want to be the best me, and that's it. So I think a lot of times when you start losing that passion is because you're being influenced by like what other people are saying about your profession, what you're seeing other people are doing and you're not. And that's a big deal. It happens to all of us. You see people who are living this grand life, working in the pros, thinking like it's amazing. That's a grind. To be in the pros is an amazing opportunity, but you are working nonstop. I think I grew my first gray hair working in the pros in my 20s, and it was amazing. But it's not for everybody. And I in hindsight now, I'm telling you, it's not for everybody. I'm not one trying to be, oh, it's the most glamorous life. However, if it's for you, do it. But it's got to be for you. Don't make it happen for anybody else. Don't try and prove it for anybody else. So if you're losing your passion, I think if you control your environment, it helps you stay narrow focused on what you sought out to do from the beginning, just like my grandma. So control your environment. Number one, get off of media, or sorry, monitor your media, unfollow, unsubscribe, keep it narrow focused. Listen to the good podcast. Of course, mine. You got to listen to mine. Follow my Instagram, Chris Garcia DPT. Follow people who are genuine. Like that's all I gotta say. People who are like not trying to change your life in a minute, right? Like do this 87-step program. No, just it's all about you, and you gotta set your own goals. So by controlling your media, what now the input coming in is very genuine. It's very realistic. It's stable. It's the long game. You're not trying to get immediate gratification. So that's number one. Number two, you definitely have to find a mentor. And this is hard. I get it. A lot of clinicians will tell me, like, I don't have one in my area. I mean, since 2020, since COVID and all stuff. I mean, now virtual is kind of the norm or a part of the norm, and because of that, now it's great. You gain greater access to people who weren't literally in your area, and I feel like that wasn't as accepted before. Now it's like, oh my gosh, now you can high five virtually anybody on this planet. And what that does is give you access to people who are like you. Now, who's the best mentor? I think I've done a podcast on that before. You can take a look at that. I don't know what episode that was, but find a mentor the best mentor is the one that jives with you and has the same vision and the same goals as you. So you just got to find somebody you jive with. That's the best mentor. Okay, somebody who's very passionate about it. Number three is put yourself in a community of people. So I talked about a mentor. It's different than also they can be a community. You need a community of people. Now, do you know why CrossFit, Orange Theory, F45, like run clubs, why these things are so successful? Is because people don't want to do it on their own. It's not because they can't do it. It's because they get a better feeling of endorphins when they do it in a group. They're more accountable. They're more motivated. And now apply that to PT. As a PT, if you're trying to do this by yourself, good luck. Not going to happen. This professional career is a long game. You signed up for this, and if you're trying to say, you know what, I'm just gonna, I've done this all my whole life. I've grinded it my whole life, and I'm gonna do this by myself. Good luck. You're gonna get the results that you're gonna get are gonna be very limited compared to what you would have if you put yourself in a position where you're in a community. And for most people, it's because you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to be in a community where you're like, I'm not that good, and I want to be better. And most people are like, I've done this by myself. I don't need help. You need help. Everybody does. I do. I'm in groups. I'm in communities to help me push me motivated. I go to CrossFit. I go to those type of group type settings. And so for me, it's the same. I think that you guys have to do the same. And just don't lose sight of that. And I think that when you're in communities, it gives you that umph. We're all going to go through this ebb and flow. And so when you're on your lows, there's other people around you being successful, and you're like, man, all right, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's different than social media because it's a group of like-minded people who are in the same career that have all the same values. That's the difference. And once you see other people who are like just like you, similar age or similar profession or similar story, at that point, that's when everybody can grow together and everybody's like, I was there, I can do that. And they're there to lift you. So if you don't have passion right now, that's your fault. It's your view of how you see what you're doing. Nothing's wrong with this world except how you view it. That's it. And so I told you it's normal. Centralize what you're listening to. Get rid of all the background noise, the static, all the negative stuff, all the people who are not positive and push you in that right direction. Get rid of them. Find a mentor somewhere online. Get a community of like-minded people. You need it. And if you're like, I don't need it, that's what you're just a matter of time. You just listen to enough of my podcasts, I'm telling you, you're going to eventually have to find a group. I don't care. If you're trying to do it by yourself, that's the results you're going to get. Okay. All right. Next, what if All right, so you're losing your passion, right? Uh, this is the same conversations that I have with my team here at Sports Performance. I get it. I'm human. I know how this works, and I try and stay ahead of it. So if I start seeing that, and they're like, "Man, I'm tired," blah, 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 take a vacation, get out of here, just go, do something, reset. Some of your best thoughts come from when you're not doing the thing that you do. Right. So if you're treating clients and your patients, you're like, oh, you're in the groove and you're like, oh, same monotonous thing, blah, blah, blah. And then you go home over the weekend and you're like, you're driving and you're like, oh, that's what I need to do with that ACL. That's what I need to do. I'm going to do that. And so you write it down or whatever it is that you do. And then you're like, you're at home and you're showering. And that's when the best thoughts come in, is when you're not thinking about what you're doing. The best thoughts come about. So that's why a vacation and rest is massive. It is one of the greatest things you can do. I do one every quarter, like a mini one, just a weekend getaway somewhere with the family on a Friday or Saturday, whatever it is, or an Airbnb. It doesn't matter. I just need like time to just spend with my family and reset. And for me as a mentor, that's massive. Because I have to continue being passionate about what I do if I'm going to be that fire to light underneath other people. And it's very, very critical. But I've seen it, I understand it, and I see the value in it. And it's just pre-programmed in my schedule, in my calendar. And because of that, I stay ahead of the game. And it's just like an athlete. Think about this. If an athlete trains for a full year, let's say they do an off-season program, just general strengthening or general conditioning, right? If it's track and field, they're probably in the fall. They take off a month or two in August, September, and in the fall they're doing just general conditioning. Okay, they're in the weight room. They're not really doing a lot of technical skill. And then in December, January, they start actually, now let's load and go. Let's start doing some heavy strength, high volume. And then in January, February, they start doing a little bit more technical work. And in March, April, they're game on. So every 2-3 months, they're building out a different block. So as an athlete, and some of the best strength coaches I've worked with, and healthcare providers understood this as well, you got to give them a break. Their nervous system won't be able to handle it, especially in technical based sports or events. Javelin, triple jump. They're so fine tuned. That nervous system is dampened, the event is done. So every 5-6 weeks, you have a deload week. Guess what? Apply it to your professional career. It's funny how we, as clinicians, we can do it. We can do these things for other people. We just can't do it for ourselves. So give yourself a deload week. I don't know. Get away. Spend a Saturday somewhere else. Pay for a hotel. Stay at a friend's house. Get out of your place. Just get away. Doesn't mean you have to take a vacation. It just means you need to get out of your routine. I think it's very healthy. And it's great for your partner too, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're a go-getter. One of our team members had a 3.9 GPA, and I told him, you're Mr. 3.9, and I appreciate that, because the people who are listening to this podcast, you guys are all go-getters. Like, you love it. You love what you do. Because I understand. I'm just like you. We all are alike. And I'm not a 3.9 GPA, but I'm very passionate about what it is. And if you are listening to this, you're one of those. We're all just, it's a different breed. Yeah, you're motivated. You want to be close to the best, if not the best. And for no other reason than it's just built into you. My wife has asked me that recently. Why? Why do you do that? Why are you starting another thing? Why are you doing this? I've talked about upcoming conference in the near future that I want to hold. I haven't released that yet. And she said, why? I said, it's just part of me. It's not stopping. It's just like a roller coaster. There's no end. And my why is because I really want to make an impact on this planet. And for you to do that, you have to have the passion. And you'll have ebbs and flows of that. So as you find a community, find a mentor, notice that whatever you recommend for your clients and your patients, that they need rest periods, they need a recovery week, they need an off week, they need a deload week, so do you. So in an ideal world, you look at your calendar across the year and you set, end of quarter one, you have a weekend getaway with your significant other. You have some time away allotted. And then every 6 weeks, you're like, Let's go out to dinner Saturday night. Let's have a recovery time away from our normal routine. And what that does is it just gives you a refresher. That's why people, when you go on vacation, the first thing when you're coming home from vacation, the next thing you're thinking about is when am I going back? Because when you're in that, it gives you so much clarity. Like you're like, I love life. And I think that if you don't do that and you're just working to work, it puts you in that mindset of, man, I don't know if I love this anymore. Nothing's wrong with this world, just the view of it. I think what you need to do is take a step back. First of all, it's normal. You're probably listening to the wrong things. You're around the wrong people. Maybe it's your job. And I can't say anything about that. But know that if you put yourself around other people and you're in that job and you're listening to other communities and everything else, that'll help uplift you and give you a better view of what you're actually doing for people. Just remember, just like my grandma, that's why I got into this. And I always got to keep that like the top of my head. Why did you get into it? Your ankle, your knee, your hip, your whatever it was that got you involved, or a family member, and all those stories that got to stay top of mind. Don't you lose sight of that. Don't you lose sight of that. Just like your patient or client, their goal is to run a 5K. Keep that 5K at the top of your head. That's what you're helping them do. You're not fixing an ankle. Get them to the 5K. Get them to the 5K. Get them to the 5K. When you get so narrow focused into that ankle and it's not getting better, you lose sight. You're not looking at their mileage. You're not looking at the frequency. You're not looking at the shoes. You're not looking at overall mechanics. And so just looking at that ankle is the same as you just looking at your job and what you don't love. You're just so narrow focused. Get out of it. Get out of the element. Put yourself in a better position to think a little bit more clearly. So stop chasing the gold at the end of the rainbow. You're trying to be something you are not. Establish more realistic goals. Get yourself some clarity. This is a long ride. Buckle up, sit back, and enjoy it. This is your career. Um, so for all of you who are in different positions, if you're in PT school and it's challenging, I've had a lot of interns recently get into PT school. Congratulations. You are about to grind for 2 to 3 years, and it's a big deal. Uh, but along that way, just know, stay focused on the reason why you're trying to do this. Don't think about quitting. It's not even an option. So when my son presented that, wasn't even an option. I had talked to him about it. We'd agreed. There's a commitment. There was 3 months. In PT school, you got 3 years. As a PT, you got this lifelong journey. And if you're not passionate about it, then it's your why is gone. You don't have empathy for people. You don't enjoy it. It's not a passion that you have anymore. And that's a different story. If your why has changed, I'm telling you, it's normal though. I think you need to get yourself out of that. Okay. I think that you got to be careful with, if you're listening to, I call them, they're like kites. Uh, People who are like kind of like the wind. You just do whatever you want. You don't have to work anymore if you don't love it. You don't have to go to practice. I'll give you a participation medal if that's what you need. Mm, I'm a little old school. I'm trying not to offend anybody. I'm just saying, when you have a commitment, just like your parents told you, you stay with that. And you find every resource possible and your vision of what you're doing and why. Understand the perspective is just that you're too narrow inside your job. Take a step back. What is it that you love? What is it? And just know it's normal. I've been there. And like I said, it was after coming back. For me, it was after coming back from Paris, France. Paris. And or no, maybe it was Lyon, France. I forget. Uh, there was a podcast that I mentioned this. It was an injury that I had, a personal injury story, and I had lumbar spine just lock up. It was one of my first days employed, and it was challenging. And for me to be in so much pain and go through this and sleep, 5, 6 hours, treat somebody, 12, 14 hours a day, make sure that they're, at the top level. It's a lot. And it's not fun. It's just a lot. And it really challenges your view. And pushing through that and understanding what I was really doing for people and keeping my grandma at the top of mind is what really allowed me to see, like, all right, I know what I'm doing and I see what my vision is. And this is just part of that journey. Part of that journey. It's a long game. Put yourself in a position where you can think a little bit more clear like that. Okay, so it's normal. Get yourself in groups. Uh, Control the input that is going in. And if you are a veteran, you're 8 to 10, 12, 15 years out, enjoy that ride. You don't even think about retirement. I challenge you. My wife has asked me that recently. You're going to retire? Good luck. Probably not. I love this too much because I love that passion. It's all about my grandma. It's all about giving people back something higher level, giving something back, the quality of life. It's never about the hip, ankle, knee, neck, head, jaw. Doesn't matter. It's always about the outcome, the ultimate goal. And for you guys, that's enjoying a career that you always dreamed of. That's why you got into PT school. That's why you got into PT, because there was a vision that you had. Keep that vision. And if you're losing it, buckle up, because this is a long ride. Stick with me on the podcast. I'll tell you like it is. I'll tell you there's a lot more. There is a little bit of a view of that gold at the end of that, or a gold pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, but it's never achievable. And that's a reality check for a lot of you. I tell my clients that they'll never be out of pain. That's a reality check. And once they understand that, it's just a journey to get there. You might be 99%. There's always going to be 1% static behind the scenes, always aches and pains. And the same for you. You always have that, because grass will always be greener. You want a different job, different facility, different athletes, different clients, different patients. I don't like so much back pain. I want more knee pain. I want ankles. You'll always have it. You'll never be happy. We're humans. So there you go. There's a little reality check for you. All right, guys. I hope that helps. A little push. I don't care where you are. If you're a new grad, veteran, PT school, you need it. Buckle up. Enjoy it. This is the ride, and enjoy this ride with me. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.